All right, go for it, Steve.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name's Steve Cleveland. I'm here with Russell Gores. We are musicians, live in Portland, Oregon. I've got a band called Lynn Street Din. And for this, our first podcast, we are honored and excited to welcome as our guest our friend Michelle Lundquist. Michelle is an herbalist. She has deep knowledge of plants and wild crafting, and she is connected to the folk or wise woman tradition of healing. She's also deeply informed and articulate on matters of mythology, astrology, symbolism, energy, correspondences, psychic and spiritual practices, and also on some sociocultural phenomena such as the Manson family and the Process Church, the Final Judgment, and MK Ultra. And Michelle has been creating a wonderful podcast for I think just over a year now, and you can find those podcasts at michelleshealinghome.com. She's also got newsletter, blog, consultations, and classes. So, welcome, Michelle. Happy New Year. How are you doing?
Wow, what a great intro. Thank you guys. Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to be here and for you guys to be starting your own show. This is awesome.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, I think for these first few, we were just hoping to maybe reach out to some people and ask what's been working for you with the pod and what hasn't been working. If you have any fun stories you want to tell us about things that went right, things that went wrong.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about it because this has been starting the podcast was probably one of the biggest turning points for
Hmm.
myself as a person, but also as a business owner. And with the podcast thing, obviously, it's really popular. Lots of people have podcasts, they have shows, whatever you want to call them. But I was kind of being, I guess, told by spirit or my guides or whomever for about a year or something to start a podcast. And
Hmm.
I kind of continued to ignore it, or I'd say, oh, yeah, I'll eventually get there. I'll eventually start a podcast. But once I did, it was like, boom, it just everything kind of started opening up. And I feel like um, I've been able to really kind of hone in on more of my specialties, what I really like talking about. I'm being able to
Hmm.
meet people, talk to people
Hmm.
that I look up to, and share more of my knowledge more easily. And it's been really fun. And there's been a lot of challenges, but with the challenges has come a lot of freedom too, because I've been able to just learn a lot more about myself. That's kind of been one of the biggest things about it is learning as I go. And that's always important in life in general. So why not do it on the internet, right?
That's right.
In front of God and
Definitely.
everyone.
Yeah, man. And we're live.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's definitely like was a moment there where before I pushed that live button, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's
We're
going,
really doing
it's
it, man.
going.
I know it, man. It's nerve-wracking. It's kind of like, and you guys as musicians, you've been performing for many years. You talk to or you hear interviews of really famous musicians who perform in front of arenas, and most
Hmm.
all of them say, I get nervous right before almost every show. And then it's not until you get out there and you start
Yeah.
and then you get in the flow and you're like, oh, actually, okay, this is what I do. It's all good. But
Exactly.
you have those jitters for almost
Yeah.
anything that you're just right at that starting line, even
You
if
know,
you've done it a million times.
yeah. Speaking of spirit and whatever, the poet Joy Harjo said that stage fright, nerves before stage, is actually the ancestors activating you, and you're in touch with your ancestors, and so they're kind of like it's a form of spiritual connection with your ancestors, and that's what the stage fright is. And then when you get out there and perform, you release all that, and that's like you said, it's exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that because I think our ancestors too, they're pushing us towards our purpose, and they're showing us these little signs along the way. And sometimes it takes us a little bit more time to pick up on the sign, but then when you eventually do it, just like I was saying, something clicks in you and you're just like, oh, well, this is what I should have been doing the whole time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, I think right there you touched on some things that we've been talking about going into this, which was purpose. Like what do we really want? There's podcasting, like you said, is very popular, and sometimes you hear about these people with these huge podcasts, all this viewership, all this money involved, and none of that is really where what I'm even remotely having in mind. I'm interested in meeting more musicians, meeting more musicians from different places, and just different people in general, like exploring some of my own random weird things that I'm into, and seeing where that goes, and being able to have a chance to do it. It's an odd thing to call somebody up and go like, okay, let's talk about one thing or two things for an hour or more, or just tell me about your whole life. That doesn't usually happen in a normal conversation, but in a podcast it does. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the flow of it. I like coming with maybe questions or an idea of what I want to talk about with the person I'm having on, but then also being open to it going wherever it goes. And I think that's the beauty of life as well, because as they say, you plan, God laughs sort of thing. And it's typically kind of how things go in this realm from what I've experienced. And sometimes things go as planned. You're like, all right, sweet. That went exactly how I thought it was going to go. Awesome. But then other times a wrench gets thrown in and you have to be light on your feet. And I think that the podcasting world you can cross this over into your real life too, because sometimes a conversation in real life, even at a party, isn't going very well. You might have to be light on your feet, change it up, or you just walk away from it. But with the podcast world, if you've invited someone on and it's not exactly what you thought, I keep in mind that it's your show. It's your show, so you can take it wherever you want it to go. And so there's a beauty in that. And it's not from some kind of, ruthless rulership mindset. It's more of like, no, you got to own it. And when you own it, and most people know that when you're confident, people pick up on that energy, people sense that, people see it. And I think that that's kind of one of the biggest things about it, is just having confidence in what you're trying to do. And with podcasting, that's a big part of it, in my opinion, anyway.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
So what should we call it?
Your podcast?
We haven't even gotten that far yet.
Who knows? But yeah, maybe we'll come up with a name. Yeah. On this little episode here. That's a good question.
I mean, I thought just, the Russell Gore's show or Russell Gore's pod or something like that. But then it was kind of like, I don't know, we could call it the Lynn Street Din pod. But we've thought about a number of different things, and nothing's jumped out at me yet as being like, oh, that's the one. So anyway, if you have any ideas, we're still kicking that around even.
Oh yeah, I bet I'll throw some ideas into the pot. Not at this second, but Did
you have a name like before you started?
No, not necessarily. Well, kind of yes and no, I guess, because I just called it The Healing Home because my project is Michelle's Healing Home. So I thought, oh, well, I think calling it The Healing Home would be pretty great. And then my fiance Mario had actually designed the logo that I'm using for the podcast probably like 7 years ago. And he designed it just because I was doing Michelle's Healing Home. And he designed this double H logo. And when I first saw it, I was like, whoa, that'd be great as like a podcast logo or like a banner or something. And we kind of shelved that logo. And then when I started the podcast last year, the first thing I thought of was the double H. logo that he designed, and I was like, we got to go with that. That's perfect. It's like just everything kind of lined up again, kind of that same sort of divine timing kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just pulled that out of the hat, and then that's been what I've been moving with, and it feels really good. So yeah, I think you'll be inspired, like just like we get inspired with all sorts of stuff. You wake up in the morning and you're just like, oh, okay, that'll work.
Awesome.
So, what was one of the first moments where you saw an uptick in interest or viewership or business, from the pod?
Good question. Let's see. It was probably after maybe about the 6-month mark, I'd say. I was starting to get a little bit more people involved, more people reaching out. Then I was starting to get asked onto other podcasts more often, and that was a big thing. I was invited on the show Crow 777 Radio, which in the quote unquote truther movement is kind of one of the more larger shows. And it was through the podcast, though, that they actually found me, and through social media. But it was because I was putting out those episodes and I just started sharing my knowledge. And I think when I started sharing what I know about what my area of study is, which is herbalism and making natural products and stuff, that's when I noticed the biggest uptick, because then people were realizing that I have things to share. And so I think that's why the biggest thing is just being authentic and really sharing what you really know about. And then the things you might not know too much about, that's where you pull the other people in and you kind of, rally the troops so you can have more of a collected conversation from different points of view. But that was where I saw the most, when I just started putting out episodes that were like solo episodes where I'm like, all right, let's just talk all about natural cat care. Boom. Then I did that. Or I did natural and herbal hair care, and that was another one. And so I just started getting more pings after doing stuff like that, for sure.
Solos.
Yeah.
Wow. So
yeah.
That's got to be kind of intense. So like just jumping in with no guest, all that downtime, all that kind of, if you're not talking, it's silent.
Yeah.
So
and it kind of, go ahead.
Those ones out pretty well.
What was that?
Do you tend to map those ones out pretty well ahead of time? Like what exactly you're going to be talking about? And do you have a lot of notes and details right in front of you?
Yeah, I'll have an outline, and then usually do like a slideshow or something like that, so that there's images to go along, and then you can kind of lean on the images a little bit because you have something that people can be looking at. And if you have particular things about a photo or whatever you want to point out, that always helps. There's something though too about the solo shows that I realize there's actually a little bit like the pressure release valve is released a little bit more when it's solo, because it is just you. So when you have a guest, obviously there's other things to keep into consideration. You have another person that's there. You're going to be asking them questions. The show is going to be more focused on them and their work probably. So when you're solo, because it is all on you, there's kind of like that pressure that's released, that you're not on someone else's schedule. It's more on your time. It's how long you want to go. It's whatever. So there's a give and take, both are great, but both have their, pluses and minuses, or their, whatever you want to say.
Right. There's no surprises, but there's no surprises.
Yeah, kind of, because you can surprise yourself all the time. Oh, I didn't. Wow, that came out okay.
I didn't know I was going to say that. Yeah. Whoopsie. That's actually been one of my biggest fears about this whole thing. So wait, so let me tell you my experience so far with trying to do this. So during the pandemic, I set myself up with a StreamYard account, and I tried to do one pod, and it failed. And that was like a real bummer, because like a whole band showed up like in costume, and we did the interview, and I did a test first, and then I tried to run it again, and I guess that the test negated the studio. So then that went away, and so then I started it up again. I thought it was going, and it wasn't. And like about I don't know, about 20 minutes in, I realized like, oh, I think this is not going. And then I just like kind of didn't say anything and just let it go, and then got out of there, and like that was really embarrassing. Yeah, and I yeah apologized to them later for that. And then I did one more where I kind of vindicated myself with my friend Josie, who is a musician, and we just did one long conversation, and that was cool. And then I think my subscription ran out, and I just left it for until now, basically. So yeah, I can understand like stopping and starting and stuff like that. This year, I really feel like I want to do this. I want to for all the right reasons. I think during the pandemic, everything was so closed down that once it opened up a little bit, I kind of lost interest because I could just go see people in real life.
Right.
But then I've realized that there's so many conversations to be had that if I'm willing to kind of learn this technology and learn how to use it, I can talk to you like you're far away from us, and we can have this conversation. And just realizing you can do that worldwide is actually really exciting.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, you're doing it now. So that's awesome. You saying that you were wanting to do it this year and all these things. It's like, well, hell yeah, you're doing it now. So that's like the biggest step. You're here. So you showed up. It's like there's a woman I follow on YouTube where she does workouts. So I like to do workouts, and I use her as a guide for this. And one of her mantras is, you showed up today, so you are successful. Even if you didn't want to work out or whatever the thing is, if you're there doing it, you've already succeeded, because the hardest part is starting. The hardest part is setting everything up. It's getting the memberships. It's having the subscription to the streaming thing, and then blah 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 blah. But once that's going, you're more than half the battle is fought, in my opinion. And then it's just about being there and being present, which is probably one of the most important things too that I've learned, is because of how my mind works. Sometimes like I'll have multiple things that are like flying through my mind, and you want to say them all. And you have to just remember to focus, especially when you have a guest, because it can be very easy to go, and then you start thinking of something else, and then you lost what they said, or whatever. And there's something just very sacred about the lessons learned when doing this sort of thing with the patience and presence. Super crucial.
I just had like 10 ideas while you were talking there. I was mostly listening, I swear.
Nice.
One about like what you mentioned, that you mentioned showing up, and I had that experience just last night playing. I was playing with some people I hadn't played with very much, and like was trying not to dog myself too bad during the show, but it was like it was really good musicians that I just haven't played with that much. And so we were kind of working things out, but I just, had to keep in mind, like, these instruments were designed to sound good together. Like you put, a bass and a drum set and guitar and trombone and everyone singing together, like even if it's a little bit flat, or, if you don't always hit the exact right chord, like if you can forget what you meant to do and just listen to what you actually did. Like I make a lot of recordings of myself, and you just listen back to it later, and you're like, that was not bad. Like, or maybe that was a little sloppy, but kind of cool and kind of edgy and kind of had some heart. You know what I mean? Like, so I've noticed that if you give it time to forget what you were trying to do and just really listen to what you ended up doing, it's like it's pretty good. Like 9 times out of 10, sometimes you really messed it up and it's just bad, and that's embarrassing. But it's those moments are like 15 seconds on an otherwise like pretty awesome take of a song.
Yeah, that's a great philosophy, because too, a lot of times a lot of the people that may have been listening to you play wouldn't notice the mistake at all. And that usually is the case for a lot of art sort of stuff. Oh shit, I shouldn't have put that pencil stroke in there, but most people wouldn't even notice that it was out of place or whatever the thing is that you're doing. But it's always about, keeping those things in your memory bank so that you can just use them for future experiences to be better, just a way to be better. It's just like a reminder that we always, everybody, in my opinion, can always be a little better the next time they do something, whatever, even if it's waking up in the morning, you could, do something a little better than you did the day before or something like that. But also not beating yourself up for these little instances that, are almost blips in time as well.
Yeah, I think part of that better too is approaching it. Like if I'm whipping myself for every performance that I do, then I'm just not going to have that much fun playing music.
Right.
If it's not fun, you shouldn't do it. Like if you're not, if you're not having fun making art, then then don't make art for a while. Or change your attitude for how you're doing it. I think for me that's really important. And another thing that you mentioned was we started started actively using my YouTube a lot more in the last year. And, you just kind of make a little video and you throw it on there, and you make a video and you throw it on there. You don't really think about it, but it's kind of glacial. And then in time, it's like you look at my YouTube page now, and it's just there's hours and hours of stuff to listen to, which, wasn't really my goal, and it was just a cumulative, adding more stuff until finally it's like, whoa, look at that. There's a lot of stuff there. If you want to listen to Lynn Street Din, like you can, and that's been kind of cool to see that come together. So I just have to kind of keep that in mind with the pod. Like in time, there's going to be a lot of these, and take it easy and don't worry about it too much.
Yeah. And it's like the momentum and the commitment. Commitment has been, and I think we talked about this, Russell, off air when we talked about, just podcasting in general, social media and all that stuff. And my biggest thing noticing was when I just fully committed. I was like, you know what, this is what it's going to be. And
you were the one who convinced me to go live, because I was thinking about just doing something recorded. And you convinced me, like, go live. Then it will actually happen, and I've thought about that too, because we did. Oh, actually, come to think of it, we did another one, an audio recording with a friend of ours, and then she great musician, but she said a number of things that she later on kind of regretted, and was like, edit this out and edit that out and take this out. And so I just kind of got uncomfortable about the whole thing and didn't release it, But I think if it had been live, she would have probably, edited herself, or it just would have gone out as is.
Yep.
She can live with it, I guess. Have you? Well, I don't know how I can put this. What's been one of the biggest fails so far for you?
Biggest fail.
Yeah, this could be difficult because it could involve other people and stuff. But what's been one of the least comfortable moments?
Good question. Okay, yeah, that's good. Well, now that you mention it, I gotta go. No, I'm kidding. No, I love you guys. I freaking love you guys, and I'm so happy for you, as I said in the beginning. And by the way, I didn't say it, but it looks great in the living room. So just want to put that out there.
Awesome.
But in terms of fails, I would say it's when you've scheduled somebody, you're ready to go, you show up, and they don't show up. And you're like, okay, I'll give them 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes after whatever time. And then they still aren't there. And then you're like, okay, well, whatever, and so that's only happened a few times. And I've never gotten like bent out of shape. And my biggest thing has just been like, well, the show must go on. So then I would just go live. So, for whatever the subject would be, typically the people I ask on, I have some sort of knowledge about what we might be talking about that day. So in the cases when people haven't showed up, I've been able to show up myself and say, okay, well, I know enough about this to speak on it for at least an hour. So we'll do that. And actually, in the end, it really wasn't a fail at all, because then it got me more used to being able to be quick on my feet, as I said, and that in that mentality, that is, the show must go on. So you can either just scrap it for the whole day, which in my opinion, you're already there. You're dressed, you got your outline, you're ready to go, you whatever. So you might as well just go live. And most people are tuning in, obviously, to hear your guests, but a lot of people who are following you or watching or listening, they're there for you too. You know, they enjoy your energy or your company that you give them online or whatever. And so you might as well just, you know, be there for them. And even if you only go for a half hour on whatever subject it was, at least you did it. And then you, again, like you were saying, Russell, you have just another video that's on there. So 30 minutes more of content that's up and available, and you're just kind of have a leg up on it. So that's been the biggest thing, or the one of the things that I've had to really try to then to not be like annoyed with it, because it's whatever happens and it happens, and then it's a learning lesson. So then you're more selective on who you ask on next, or you know, whatever. So the other thing too is you know, being aware of people who really want to be doing online stuff, or who want to be promoting something, who are working on projects that actually are wanting to be in the public sphere, versus asking people who might not want to be, which there's nothing wrong with interviewing people who don't, but the difference between the motivation on that end could bring other elements to the table, if that makes sense, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like this is a medium that has a lot of risks and not necessarily rewards if you're not trying to, again, like, get something out of it and be very specific about what you're trying to get out of it. Again, for me, it's just meeting people and getting to have kind of conversations you wouldn't normally have with people.
Yeah, totally. Because it doesn't always have to be a monetary thing either. You know, it's like, if we all have stories, and we all have things that we enjoy. And if you're wanting to, and you're willing and able to be on this platform, and that's what you want to do, I mean, it's one of the best networking tools that we have access to as people. I think, you know, and that's kind of how I tend to look at it, as a tool, because I've never been an internet-y person whatsoever. Like, I was not a Luddite, but you know, I didn't have smartphones, I didn't have a computer, I didn't have an attachment to these things years ago, you know, and it was just slowly over time, when I started my first business, realizing to have a business, it's one thing to like go to farmers markets and do all this stuff, but like, if you want to pierce a veil, there's like a whole other market if you open yourself up to what we're doing now, or the social media aspects of it. And it doesn't have to become your life. That's kind of how I remind myself too. You know, I really don't care for scrolling endlessly on these reels or these Instagram things or whatever, because I find it to be very addictive. And I find it that whoever you are, you can get addicted and sucked into this stuff. So staying in a healthy balance with it, having a healthy relationship with it, has been one of the things that I've kept in the forefront of my mind, and trying to not like muddy the waters between real life and internet as well. Like, you guys, obviously, we've broken bread multiple times, we've sung and played music together, we've had great conversations, so we know each other in the flesh as well, which is really valuable. And that's one of the things that should not be forgotten either. As valuable as it is of what we're able to do right now, it's about being able to have the balance of it and not get lost in it. And that's where my mind goes when I think about the youth of today, and like being raised with this shit, and like, you don't know a world without it. That's where things can get kind of weird. And so those are the things, though, I like talking about on the internet, which is really interesting. And you'll watch people get stuffed in their tracks, especially people who are really embedded in the internet world. You bring up internet addiction, or you bring up screen addiction, it's like, okay, we're not ready for that. But those are the things that I like talking about, because I think it's really important within this whole realm of stuff to not forget that, these things can and do have some sort of attachments to us, whether we like it or not. And I talked to our friend Regina actually in my last interview about this, about like actual psychic cording and the things that you cord yourself to. And the internet is it's a big thing, and we're all being funneled into using the internet more, for whether it be our bank accounts or ordering whatever online or talking or having conversations. So just making sure that you have balance, I think, is a good thing. And I don't foresee you guys having any problems with that, knowing that you guys understand those things,
Have you gotten more sucked into social media? That's been one of my concerns with starting this, that I might, suddenly get more concerned about that stuff. I broke with most, like I used to use Facebook a fair amount, and then I started an Insta, and then just at one point just cut off all of it. And I've basically been without social media for years now, and it's well, it depends on what you call social media. YouTube is kind of social media, but the kind of day-to-day, really interactive, toxic stuff, I'll go for months without logging onto any social media, which is interesting because it feels, out of touch to some degree, I have to admit. But then it also, I've noticed that people have opinions and ideas that I just have no idea where they're coming from, and I can only assume that it's social media, or where a lot of fear, I've noticed, seems to be stoked like all around from using social media. That people are kind of like worried about this mob of people who want to do you harm in some way. It seems to be something I run into, no matter where people are politically. It just seems to be that they're worried about this group of people out there that's coming to get them, and I just don't feel that. And I remember feeling, not. This is kind of, well, yeah, during the Iraq War, when that was starting up, I remember, people getting worried about terrorism. And I just remember like going like, I don't know, I read somewhere that it's as likely or less than a lightning strike. And so I'm not worried about that. And I've noticed, ever since, I've just felt like there's always something to be fearful of, and that social media like really seems to push that in people to feel more fearful. So I definitely want to be careful with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you on this one. And, the social media thing, from a personal perspective, it's interesting. Once I really started creating content, I found myself consuming less content, if that makes sense. So it was like, and Mario and I were just talking about this morning, of the more content you put out, sometimes content actually of others starts to take a back seat, because you're focused, man. You're focusing on your thing. You're creating content. Maybe you're working on a book on the side. Maybe you're thinking of a future video. Maybe you're reaching out to guests who you want to have on your show. There is so much involved when it comes to content creation, that you find that you end up focusing on making yours, which is basically what you wanted to do in the end anyway. So the social media stuff, depending on your self-control with it, it kind of starts to fall to the wayside in a way. And I told Mario, I said, if you ever see me on my phone and I'm literally, I'm obviously scrolling, ask me if I'm working, and don't be afraid. just ask me. And even if I give you attitude and go, yeah, or no, or whatever, it's not that I mean it. It's because you're pinging my ego of me knowing that I don't want to be on here endlessly. So it helps me a lot when he does that, because then it brings me back and I go, yeah, I was working, but now you caught me scrolling. So I'm going to get off the phone now.
What's your stupid on social media?
The stupid content that I like.
Yeah, it's I know it's stupid, but it's my stupid. What's your stupid?
Oh man, I've got a couple. I mean, like, I am totally into just like watching people fall. Like, if someone falls, it's so mean. It's
Yeah.
so mean. Okay, you fall or
It's the
whatever.
basis of comedy, though. It's what it's
I
all.
know.
It's where it
Kinda
all
so,
starts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That and
you know,
farts.
it's totally true. So that kind of thing. Cats are a big thing, but cats aren't
Mm.
stupid. No, cat videos that I fall into a lot too. And I would say, farts always come in there somehow.
Yeah,
So
right. Well, and Mario has experience with getting people addicted to cats, right?
he does actually. Oh my
Yes.
God. What'd you say, Steve?
I said yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. He totally does. He has a whole epic story of creating a website as a joke, putting stuff on his cat, and it like blew up. I mean, the internet just ate it up, and he had thousands and thousands of people submit photos of their cats with stuff on it. And it just took off, and he got book deals, and he toured around signing books, and he had calendars and t-shirts. He ended up like he rented a warehouse because it was just becoming this thing, and he had all this inventory, and he hired people to help him. And yeah, I mean, and he was a young buck. He was 21. So it was just like, he goes, I just put a photo out thinking it was funny of, I don't even remember what he put on his cat. It was just something like lip balm, or I just put this lip balm on my cat. Look, stuff on my cat, huh? And people were just like, oh my God, this is awesome. And then boom, there it was. So
Dude, this is awesome.
yeah. It's like, it's one of those things you just like never know what's going to take off. So who knows?
Like the most viral video that I've I think the two most viral videos that I've been involved in was one was I was playing musical Saw, just making a bunch of like random noises, but there was like a pit bull that was like chewing on a toy, and he was like hanging from his jaws, like ripping on this toy, like right next to me, and he was like growling, like that kind of sounded, and I was kind of copying his growling noises with the saw, and I think that
I'd watch that.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
And then
me
finally,
too.
like right at the very end, like the pit bull just like drops and goes whoosh, like falls down to the ground, and like lands, and that's like the end of the video, and that has like a few thousand hits, and then there's another one where I'm sort of playing. We were at a rehearsal, and the camera's bouncing around, and I'm sort of playing Master of Puppets, but not really. And
Is that a Metallica song?
yeah,
For-
yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I think enough for it to not get copyrighted or not get like a copyright strike.
It never did.
Because the shorts, if you do use any, I tried using copyrighted music over the over Christmas, and it wouldn't let me do it for some reason to do the shorts. But anyway, yeah. So that video like got like over 4,000 views or something like that. And
More than that.
Yeah.
It was like 7,000
Damn.
or more.
And then Steve, you have a recording of you playing is it a Vietnamese song?
Some friends of mine at this group Indolo Wind, we did this little recording in the living room at Eric's Walter's place, and he's traveled to Cambodia quite a bit, and he knows I think the language is called Khmer. I could be wrong, but I think so. And so he knows the language somewhat, and he knew this children's song in that language. And so we took like 5 minutes and did this little video, and he's singing this children's song in Khmer language, and it's just thousands and thousands and thousands of people have viewed that. So you never know. You just never know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. You just got to go for it. That's like, I feel like the mantra of it. Just put it out there and see.
Mhm.
And then the thing that you think is going to do really well, you're like, huh, people don't really like this. Okay. It's like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, right on, Michelle. I think I think that feels pretty good. I don't know if you have any other advice you'd like to give us before we go. I know, again, you've had a pod for a year, and I feel like it's gone really well. And so, yeah, I have a few other friends that have some shows, and I wanted to check in with them and see like um, any advice that they could kind of give us to get us going. But yeah, do you have any parting words, any hints, tips, or smart advice you want to give us as we start this journey?
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me. This is awesome. And it's an honor to be your first guest. I appreciate it. Uh,
Absolutely. Like
My
you
biggest
inspired me so much to do this. So
Oh, thank you, Russell. I'm
absolutely,
glad. I know when we talked, I was like, go, go, go. You guys just do it. Just do
yeah.
it. And that would be my biggest advice, just pick a day to do it and show up, and
Mondays at noon.
there you go. There it is.
Mondays
So
at noon.
Mondays at noon, just do it. And every Monday at noon, be there, even if the guest isn't there, even if you're like, I don't know, maybe this will work, maybe not, I don't know, just do it. And you're going to be able to like pick up momentum quicker than you realize just by doing it and staying positive with it. And I think that along with the commitment to it, which kind of runs in that same vein of just doing it, but the commitment thing is huge, and reminding yourself that if you stop, you're gonna have to start again at some point, and it's gonna be harder to restart. So just keep going, because it's once you have something that you really feel passionate about, it's going to continue to open up doors for you the more you work it, the more you play it, the more you talk about it, just like you guys know with music. And you get into this mode, especially with music, where there's like this transcendent moment too, where you're just like, you're in between realms. You're there, but you're not. You're one with the music, you're one with the voice, you're one with the person you're playing with, and you all start to groove together. And I feel like the podcast is the same way, and interviews are the same way. And that's what I keep reminding myself of, even when I am talking, even solo. It's also an opportunity to get better, become a better speaker, become a better host, become a better guest, whatever. So those would be my biggest pieces of advice, is to just keep going, commit to it, and just do it. Not like Nike style, but like real lifestyle.
That is really wonderful advice, all of that. And speaking of getting into those realms like playing music and whatnot, I've watched and listened to your podcast with Regina, our friend Regina LaRocca, and I felt like that conversation really flowed to where, like you're saying, you just get in this other realm and y'all are like on the same wavelength, and kind of takes you out of yourself into. So that can happen with conversation, as you say, as well as music.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, that was a good one. And obviously, you
Yeah.
guys know Regina. She's
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
And
And
yeah.
it took me a little while to get her to come
Mm-hmm.
on, because
Mm-hmm.
she isn't really well versed with the internet stuff and all that stuff. But I just kind of I put it in her mind. I invited her and I let her on her own time come to me when she was ready. And it was beautiful. It was awesome.
It was great.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so I appreciate that you picked up on that, because I felt the same way, and other people that listened really, I think, got a lot out of that conversation, because those subjects are talked about, but not from the same perspective that we have as people who are really open to a lot of possibilities of things happening in the world and how it really works. We don't know, but from experience, to be able to bring it in and be like, yeah, it kind of feels like this though. I can kind of see that it's like this. But
Yeah.
then always being open to it not being what you thought and all that stuff. So yeah, that was a good one. Appreciate it. And I'm glad you liked it.
Right on. Well, thanks so much, Michelle. How about we again, Michelle? Do you want to tell everybody about Michelle on the way out here? And
Well, yeah, I think Michelle, probably go to michelle'shealinghome.com, right? And then your YouTube channel is also called Michelle's Healing Home. Is that correct?
Yep, correct. Yep.
And yeah, like I said, you've got website products, a store online, and a newsletter, and they're all great. And I've bought many of your products, including the antifungal and wound healing salve, which is great, toothpaste, soap, bitters, and I intend to keep buying your products.
Yeah, you've always been a huge supporter, Steve. And I make it so people can use it. That's what it's for, you know? It's like these are little things that can help us along and avoid some of the more crappy ingredients that are in a lot of the commercial products out there. It's pretty bad. So always happy to be helping friends help themselves, really.
Thank you. Yeah, and as I was saying in the introduction to you, aside from herbal healing, I mean, you're very deeply informed on some sociocultural phenomena like the Mansons and Process Church, and you've done interviews. I know you've been on other podcasts to talk about those things. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. It's a huge passion of mine, as messed up as it is, but
you got to look at the real history and what's really been going on, even if it's dark sometimes.
It's true.
I just finished up weird stories from inside the canyon.
Oh, yes, Dave McGowan.
Yeah. And
weird scenes inside the canyon.
Yeah.
And we should totally talk about that some other time.
Dude. Yes.
That's a rabbit hole right there.
Thing.
It is, and I know Steve knows all about that too. And shout out to Matt. I always think of your buddy Matt, because Matt
we're
too.
Gonna have him on here too if we can sometime.
Oh, sweet.
He's one.
That'll be awesome.
We'd love to get on. Who would probably
courting him?
He needs some courting.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, he hates the sound of his voice, which I just find incredible.
Oh wow, he has a great voice.
He's got the coolest voice, right? I know, but it's just one of those things you have to realize, like, I hate the sound of my voice. Like every time I go to sing or whatever, I hear it back later. I go, oh, why? But you get used to it.
Really? I wouldn't expect that from you either.
Oh, really?
Russ,
yeah.
Come on, Russ.
Well,
no, I get it. We all have our own insecurities. It's for sure, like big time. Yeah.
And I like to do it. It's just it feels good to sing. It feel and it feels good to express myself, to talk, but yeah, just hearing yourself recorded later, I get that there's a moment that everybody hears that back and goes like, do I really talk like that?
I thought I sounded like Tony Bennett when I was singing, but I guess it didn't really turn out that way.
The lies we tell ourselves. No, it's all good, man. Yeah, it's part of the thing, and just keep talking because you'll get used to it. I mean, you'll get used to it, and it won't even be a big deal.
You just do it, and you get used to it, and like, well, that is my voice, so here we go. And I think with singing, that's the case too. Really,
yeah.
Stay in tune.
And on a final note, did you come up with any ideas for what our name should be?
No. For some reason, what keeps coming, two guys and something. I don't know. There's something there, but that's not official. That's not even my official idea put into the bucket. But when you asked me the question the first time, and then when you asked me again, that came to mind for some reason. So I don't know, but
right on. Two guys, one piano.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be it.
All right, Steve, you want to play us out?
Sure. Thank you so much, Michelle. That was awesome. Thank you for everything. That was great.
Yeah. Happy New
course.
Year, Michelle.
And Happy New Year, and to Mario too.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. First thing in the new year. So this is great. It's really helping us to get going. So thanks so much, Michelle. We'll talk to you soon.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Two guys, one piano, brought to you by Steve and Russell here at the Lynn Street House.
There you go.
Nice.
All right, take it easy. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.